With Trump as the current president in 2025, the era of protectionism has made a strong comeback to our beat. His policies aimed at shielding American industries have sparked global economic debates and concerns. How will this shift impact international trade and relations? Let's dive in. President Trump's tariffs sent shockwaves through the EU, threatening to unravel decades of carefully nurtured economic cooperation. The spectre of a trade war loomed large, with the potential to hike costs, stifle consumer spending and cripple economic growth. The EU found itself at a crossroads, needing to balance a forceful retaliation with the imperative to protect the fragile transatlantic alliance. Trumponomics centered on four main pillars: significant tax cuts to stimulate growth, efforts to balance the deficit, extensive deregulation to reduce business constraints, and the implementation of aggressive tariffs to protect American industries. These strategies aimed to transform the US economy, but also sparked global economic concerns. President Trump's tariffs continue to aim at protecting American industries, boosting domestic production and jobs. However, they also lead to increased costs for manufacturers and farmers, squeezing profit margins. The agricultural sector faces retaliatory tariffs, resulting in market gluts and significant price drops. This exacerbates global economic uncertainty. Businesses struggle with unpredictable costs, making long-term planning difficult and impacting overall economic stability. President Trump's tariffs continue to send shockwaves through the global economy, leaving the EU in a precarious position. Retaliatory tariffs from China and potential EU countermeasures cast a long shadow over investment. The IMF sounded the alarm, warning that the trade war posed a grave threat to global growth. President Trump's tariffs continue to cast a shadow over vital EU sectors like automotive and machinery, stalling economic momentum. The European Commission, in a somber tone, revised growth forecasts downward, attributing the decline to escalating trade tensions with the US. The automotive and machinery sectors continue to be hit hard by President Trump's tariffs, facing unprecedented challenges. The chemical industry too grapples with disrupted supply chains and soaring costs. Under President Trump in 2025, the tariffs unleashed a profound ripple effect, severely impacting investment and stalling growth across the EU. The EU faced the daunting task of safeguarding its interests while preventing a deeper trade conflict. Economists are rigorously analyzing the potential repercussions of a US tariff on all EU imports. Some experts argue that the EU's diversified economy could absorb the shock, while others highlight the risk of substantial economic disruptions, particularly in key industries like automotive and agriculture. The CFMC EPR survey revealed a spectrum of expert opinions on the profound implications of President Trump's tariffs on the EU economy in 2025. Some experts, like Robert Coleman, minimized the potential damage, suggesting a limited GDP impact. However, others, like Michael Wickens, highlighted significant negative effects, particularly on Germany. Jorge Braga de Macedo cautioned about a severe impact on transatlantic trade. While the EU's resilience was acknowledged, a cloud of uncertainty loomed large. Section 3. The weight of uncertainty forecasting, the unforeseeable. The CFMC EPR survey revealed a palpable sense of uncertainty among experts regarding the long-term impact of US tariffs on the EU economy. While some panel members attempted to quantify the potential damage in terms of GDP growth, others emphasized the sheer difficulty of forecasting the economic consequences of a policy as unpredictable as Trump's protectionism. The uncertainty stemmed from a myriad of factors, including the potential for retaliatory tariffs from the EU, the volatile reactions of global financial markets, and the unpredictable nature of President Trump's own decision-making in 2025. Aaron Yashiv of Tel Aviv University, while acknowledging the potential for economic harm, cautioned against relying too heavily on economic models. He pointed to the example of the Russian gas crisis, where the downturn was less severe than initially feared. Yashiv emphasized that there are no highly reliable estimates and uncertainty is high, leaving little confidence in any forecast. The uncertainty surrounding US trade policy extended beyond the realm of economic forecasting. It also cast a long shadow over business investment decisions as companies hesitated to commit to long-term projects in the face of unpredictable costs and shifting trade barriers. This reluctance to invest, coupled with the potential for a protracted trade war, cast a long, ominous shadow over the EU's economic prospects. The weight of uncertainty also fueled anxieties about the future of the transatlantic relationship. The trade dispute, if not resolved through diplomacy and compromise, threatened to erode trust and cooperation between the United States and the European Union, undermining the very foundations of the post-war global order. Section 4. The Export Conundrum: Decoupling Growth from Trade. The EU's reliance on exports for growth is being thoughtfully examined. Experts suggest a shift towards bolstering domestic demand to mitigate exposure to external shocks. Conversely, some believe that the EU's competitive edge lies in its ability to excel on the global stage, producing high-quality goods. This ongoing debate underscores the intricate challenges the EU faces in navigating the complexities of global trade dynamics, with President Trump still in office in 2025. Section 1. The Balancing Act: Retaliation versus Conciliation. The European Union, confronted with the ongoing challenge of President Trump's aggressive protectionist policies in 2025, stood at a critical juncture. The bloc had to meticulously weigh its options, striving to safeguard its economic interests without igniting a full-blown trade war or fracturing the transatlantic alliance. The dilemma of how to counter US tariffs sparked a fierce debate within the EU, with some advocating for a cautious and diplomatic approach, while others demanded a bold and assertive response. Advocates of restraint argued that the EU should prioritize diplomacy and dialogue, aiming to diffuse the trade conflict through negotiations rather than retaliation. They underscored the interconnectedness of the global economy, warning that a trade war would inflict damage on both sides. They also stressed the vital importance of the transatlantic relationship, asserting that maintaining strong ties with the United States was essential for tackling global challenges. Conversely, proponents of a more forceful response contended that the EU could not afford to appear weak or indecisive in the face of President Trump's combative trade tactics. They insisted that the EU had to show its resolve to defend its interests, even if it meant imposing retaliatory tariffs. They argued that a calculated response, precisely targeting vulnerable sectors of the US economy, would send a powerful message to the Trump administration that its protectionist policies would not go unchallenged. The debate over how to counter US tariffs revealed the intricate web of economic and political considerations facing the EU. The bloc had to strike a delicate balance between defending its economic interests, upholding the rules-based trading system, and maintaining a constructive relationship with the United States. Section 2. Seeking strength in unity, forging new alliances. The EU sought to diversify its alliances, focusing on Asia, Africa, and Latin America, strengthening ties with Japan, South Korea, and negotiating with Mercosur, promoting free trade and addressing global challenges. The EU aimed to build coalitions with like-minded partners, fostering a spirit of global cooperation and mutual growth. A time for introspection, strengthening the EU from within. The EU, facing profound global challenges, embarked on a journey of introspection and reform to fortify its internal cohesion, enhance economic resilience, and assert its global presence. These reforms were aimed at deepening economic integration, fostering innovation, and advancing digitalization. The EU's vision included completing the single market and providing robust support for startups and SMEs. Additionally, it aspired to take on a more influential role in global governance. The transatlantic tug-of-war relationship tested. The re-election of Donald Trump in 2024 and his relentless pursuit of protectionist trade policies sent shockwaves through the global economy, thrusting the European Union into a perilous situation. The US and the EU, once steadfast allies and economic titans, now found themselves on opposing sides of an intensifying trade conflict. The imposition of tariffs, a cornerstone of Trump's America First agenda, threatened to unravel decades of economic cooperation and integration, casting a long, ominous shadow over the transatlantic relationship. The potential fallout from a full-blown trade war between the US and the EU was immense, with the power to disrupt global supply chains, stifle economic growth, and ignite political tensions. While some sectors in both economies might gain from the protection afforded by tariffs, many others faced the grim prospects of higher costs, reduced competitiveness, and job losses. The automotive industry, a cornerstone of both the US and EU economies, emerged as a particularly contentious battleground with the looming threat of tariffs on car imports. The EU, forced to navigate the treacherous waters of Trump's protectionist policies, found itself balancing a complex web of economic and political challenges. Retaliatory tariffs, though tempting, carried the perilous risk of further escalation and economic damage. The EU also had to weigh the broader geopolitical ramifications of its actions, striving to protect its interests without fracturing the transatlantic alliance. The relationship between the US and the EU, forged in the aftermath of World War II and tested by the Cold War, now faced a new era of profound uncertainty. Charting a course through uncertain waters. The EU, in response to the challenges posed by President Trump's trade policies in 2025, embarked on a determined strategy aimed at not only mitigating the damage but also emerging stronger and preserving the rules-based trading system. The bloc engaged in proactive diplomatic efforts to resolve the trade dispute through negotiations, seeking to find common ground and avoid a full-blown trade war. However, the EU also recognized the need to stand firm in defense of its interests, making it clear that it would not hesitate to respond to protectionist measures with countermeasures of its own. Recognizing the need to diversify its economic partnerships, the EU deepened its engagement with other key players on the global stage. The bloc strengthened ties with Asian economies like Japan and South Korea, concluding landmark trade agreements that reduced barriers to trade and investment. The EU also sought to enhance its economic ties with countries in Africa and Latin America, recognizing the growing importance of these regions in the global economy. The EU also turned inward, embarking on a series of reforms aimed at strengthening its internal cohesion and enhancing its economic competitiveness. These reforms focused on deepening economic integration among member states, completing the single market, and fostering innovation and digitalization. The EU recognized that to navigate the challenges of a more uncertain and volatile world, it needed to bolster its own economic resilience and reduce its vulnerability to external shocks. With determination and a clear vision, the EU is charting a hopeful course through these uncertain waters. A new world order, the enduring power of cooperation. The trade tensions between the US and the EU unfolded against the backdrop of a shifting global landscape. The rise of China as an economic powerhouse, coupled with the resurgence of nationalism and protectionism in many parts of the world, challenged the established global order. The rules-based trading system, painstakingly constructed over decades, faced unprecedented pressure, raising concerns about a future of fragmented markets, escalating trade barriers, and diminished global cooperation. Despite these challenges, the enduring power of cooperation remained evident. The EU, while standing firm in defense of its interests, continued to advocate for dialogue and diplomacy as the most effective means of resolving trade disputes. The bloc recognized that in an interconnected world, shared challenges required collective solutions. The EU's commitment to multilateralism, its efforts to forge new alliances, and its internal reforms reflected a broader belief in the enduring power of cooperation to address global challenges. The future of the transatlantic relationship, while uncertain, remained of paramount importance. The US and the EU, despite their differences on trade and other issues, shared a common history, values, and interests. A strong and cooperative transatlantic partnership remained essential for addressing global challenges, promoting economic prosperity, and upholding a rules-based international order. The trade tensions, while posing a significant challenge, also presented an opportunity for both sides to reflect on their shared interests and work together to shape a more stable and prosperous future. In the end, the enduring power of cooperation offers hope for a brighter, more united world, where shared prosperity and mutual respect prevail.